Do you ever stop to wonder how society solves some of its biggest problems?
Of course, the answer is simple. They were solved using economics. Simple models used to dissect and predict outcomes to complex situations.
Wow! I had never thought to think that economics solved real-life, day-to-day situations. Not only that, but I bet economics is also used to rethink current issues that are accepted by society but don't necessarily help and have unintended consequences.
Exactly right, and this process dates back hundreds of years. Take, for example, Dr. Semmelweis in Vienna General Maternity Clinic in 1847. At the time, 1 out of every 6 mothers was dying from something called puerperal fever. Doctors and many others alike had no idea what causes fever. They thought that things such as the foul air in delivery wards or even the presence of male doctors were to be attributed to this disease. However, Dr. Semmelweis had a different approach to solving this problem. He sought a more fact-based one and began to collect data from the beginning, basically as soon as women started entering the clinic. He was able to observe then that women that went to the male doctor's ward had a death rate of almost 10%, 9.9%, whereas the woman who went to the female midwife's ward had a death rate of almost 4%, 3.9%. Semmelweis was able to discern that this difference was due to different practices within the wards. He shadowed doctors and realized that as soon as a patient died, the doctors would perform an autopsy. Doctors would then go straight from the autopsy to the maternity ward and to assist in childbirth without even washing their hands. Because midwives did not perform autopsies, they did not have this problem, and thus their patients had a significantly lower death rate. Semmelweis mandated that every doctor wash their hands, and eventually the plague was halted. However, like any good economist knows, it takes years for the public to change in response to the implementation of a new policy. Similarly, it took years for the germ theory to be accepted. Semmelweis ran models and took a systematic approach to solving this problem, rather than his contemporaries, who were offering faulty causation and correlation without using economic thought.
Take for another example, Robert McNamara, who is best known for his work as the Secretary of Defense during the Vietnam War. He exemplified thinking like an economist to solve large societal issues. Ford Motor Company hired McNamara to bring a statistical analysis to the auto industry. Ford wanted to prevent deaths from automobile crashes, so they commissioned McNamara to run studies. He wrapped skulls in different materials and simply dropped them downstairs. By doing so, he was able to discern that the materials in the interior of the car were incredibly dangerous and were resulting in many deaths. McNamara ordered a safer steering wheel and a padded instrument panel. However, there was more to be done to increase safety. Rather than focus on the materials in the car, McNamara came up with a simple, cheap fix to prevent deaths: the seatbelt. However, this was met with much resistance at first, and Ford was scared that they were even losing business due to this new feature that others were not yet incorporating into their driving habits. McNamara realized that behavioral change is hard and takes time. When a new policy is implemented, people have to see results to change their incentives and their thinking, and only then will their behavior change. Seatbelt usage was only at 11% in 1960, whereas today it is over 80%. This shows exactly how long it takes for behavior to change. Seatbelts have reduced the risk of death by 70%. Even as people are driving more, the per-mile auto fatality rate has fallen. This is a misconception earlier in the 1960s, as people did not drive as much, and thus their rate was low. However, this did not accurately reflect the safety of the time.
That's interesting, and I also think that McNamara took this a step further and began to analyze the effectiveness of car seats. Seatbelts are designed to fit grown adults, and not kids. The car seat was introduced in the 1960s to solve this problem. Death rate for motor vehicle accidents has fallen, and much of the credit has gone to the car seat. National Highway Traffic Safety Administration claims that car seats reduce the risk of death by 54%. Using the fatality analysis reporting system, it turns out that a child in a car seat is in fact 54% less likely to die compared to a child that is completely unrestrained, meaning no car seat or seatbelt. This statistic now makes sense. However, how effective are car seats compared to regular seatbelts? Using the fatality analysis reporting system, for children 2 and older, the rate of death in crashes is virtually identical: 18.2% for children with a safety seat and 18.1% for children with just a seatbelt. There is no evidence to refute this claim that car seats are safer than seatbelts. Consider also that an estimated 80% of car seats are installed improperly. Thinking at the margin, authors Stephen Levitt and Stephen Dubner conducted their own experiment with car seats and seatbelts. They found that seatbelts actually outperformed the car seat. So why do car seats continue to be used? An intangible asset of car seats is the parent peace of mind. An easy fix to the problem in general would be to design seatbelts in cars to fit children, as they account for half of the passengers who ride in the back seat. However, governments are instead mandating that children spend even more time in car seats. This again reflects the ideology that behavioral change is hard and takes time.
Using economics, we have seen how large problems in society are solved with simple and easy fixes.